vibrator? Is that why you had me run back there one day? Because this wasn't working?
Correct. Now it's all working.
Well, why do you have 7 or 8 buttons there?
Well, one's for northwest, one's for northeast, one's for southwest, one's for southeast, one's for right down the middle.
Oh.
One's for wide range, one's for short range, one's for clearing.
I'm impressed. I never knew what it was. Have you taken the second shot? My goodness. Is Jake a fair pitcher? Or do I
Very
need to tease him?
It's very good. Go for it.
Is that one ready?
No. Drop 3 minutes at the beginning and then stretch everything. How much time, Glenn?
I'll be another 5 minutes.
You might as well do it quick. It's gonna be good. Jig break.
Did that to Stanley after he got through his okay.
You did? Oh.
That's what it was. That's right. It is, I want something.
A little short.
Plug it in.
Well, what would it take to drive the camera to an Arvin?
Tell me about it. I'm the one who's bitching about a wardrobe allowance and I want underground parking.
I'm dig a hole for you.
The lights aren't swaying.
This yellow canvas right here was supposed to be a chroma TV PR.
What is it?
It's gonna start live. It's gonna
Getting back to what I was talking about.
Let's do that.
Best in sports television. The war for control of the Miami cocaine trade tomorrow on NBC 9 News.
A member of the United States Congress has been indicted in connection with the FBI's abscam probe, and here in Minneapolis, some dramatic new evidence was presented today by the defense in the case of the trial of Riley Housley III. I'm Stan Borman. Complete details of those stories, along with all the rest of the night's news, coming up next on the Tuesday night edition of News Center 11. Stay tuned. Scare the hell out of me. It's Wednesday.
How do I know it started?
Forgot what day it was for us there. The Tuesday night. Give me a break. Well, it's what happened to the nice cold weather? Borman insists on an icy cold studio. Cameraman had to know to have to wear coats. All that's cosmetics because even his most ardent critics at the station concede that he is a consummate performer. Who memorized that?
Another same old summer. Not when the biggest day around is bigger than ever. Look.
Damn right, consummation is.
Breathtaking.
I know, Robbie.
Thrilling, spine-tingling, invigorating, challenging, entertaining, and relaxing things to do. But now with that new twist or two, Valley Fair dares you to ride the new corkscrew and call this just another summer.
Now, if you want to hear what they said, you just invite...
5,
Match weekday afternoons at 4 and 5.
Hey, we're on television.
This is the 10 p.m. edition of News Center 11 with Glenn Burns weather, Tom Ryther sports, and anchorman Stan Borman.
Good evening, everybody. Here's what's happening tonight at 10 o'clock. 2 public officials and 2 attorneys face charges tonight in connection with the abscam investigation. The first time a member of the United States Congress has been indicted on charges of conspiring to commit bribery and defraud the United States government. Democratic Congressman Michael Ozzie Myers of Pennsylvania was indicted by a U.S. District Court in Brooklyn. He allegedly accepted a $100,000 cash bribe from an FBI agent posing as an Arab businessman. Myers was to use his influence in Congress to help the businessmen stay in this country. Also indicted today on similar charges, the mayor of Camden, New Jersey, Angelo Ericetti. Also indicted, Philadelphia lawyer Howard Crichton and Philadelphia councilman and attorney Lewis Johnson. All four were allegedly involved in a related scheme to profit from Meyer's power and influence in Congress. By the way, authorities say that another indictment will be handed down tomorrow, and more are on the way in the months to come. The investigation continues tonight in what appears to be a murder-suicide in South Minneapolis. Shortly after 9 o'clock last night, Mary Kay Schutz was shot and killed outside her apartment building at 27th and Grand. Her alleged assailant, 29-year-old Charles Anderson, reportedly returned to his own apartment where he then shot and killed himself. Tonight, police are searching for a motive in the two deaths. There's reportedly no indication that Anderson and Schutz knew each other before last night, even though they lived in the same apartment building. Police officials suspect Anderson may have suffered from mental disorders. Today, some dramatic new evidence was presented in the trial of Riley Housley III. State prosecutors rested their case and the defense took over. Housley's attorney brought witnesses to the stand today who disputed earlier testimony by members of the Minneapolis Police Department. According to the defense, 3 key witnesses were near Housley's home at the time of the police break-in and the ultimate shooting of Police Sergeant David Mack and Robert Sconra. Bernie Grace picks up the story from that point.
According to testimony, 3 men in separate cars stopped in front of Housley's home the afternoon of the shootings. One of the men, a cab driver, forgot his trip sheet, logging his taxi rides for the day. So they drove around the block, cutting through the alley behind Housley's home. None recalled seeing or hearing anyone knocking at Housley's door. After running into this apartment building to get the trip sheet, the men heard gunfire. One of the men, Steve DeYoung, estimated it took 3 minutes from the time the men left the front of Housley's home until they heard gunfire. That indicates police broke into Housley's home only minutes after arriving, contradicting the claim by police that it was 15 to 20 minutes after arriving. Housley's attorney telling the jury in his opening argument, Housley never heard police identify themselves, adding he thought the intruders were burglars. See, leaving court, Housley's attorney said after Housley's arrest, one officer took his gun and put it to Housley's head, saying, "I'm going to blow your head off." Expletives deleted. Right. Before Housley's defense wraps up, much more will be said about 2 burglaries at his home this past year. Both times the incidents were reported to police, and both times intruders made off with several items. In the last incident, Housley and his girlfriend were ordered at gunpoint to lie on the floor while intruders made off with their stereo. All of this to be presented to the jury in an effort to show Housley's fear the day police broke in. Bernie Grace, News Center 11.
Hundreds of Cuban refugees reportedly will begin arriving at Wisconsin's Fort McCoy within the next couple of days. News Center 11 is sending a crew to Fort McCoy and will be bringing you reports on how the resettlement is affecting western Wisconsin. And at Fort Chaffee, Arkansas, things are back to normal tonight after some trouble with Cuban refugees last night. About 300 Cubans were angered when visiting family members were forced to leave the fort at sundown. They ran through the camp and escaped out through an unpatrolled gate. 65 National Guard troops were mobilized and the refugees were then rounded up. Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton says the camp needs better security.
We have got to have more adequate security within that camp.
Governor, what do you think should be done to the refugees who try to escape?
I think the ones who actually willfully violate the law should be sent away.
Deported back to Cuba?
Yes.
There are reportedly 18,000 Cubans at Fort Chaffee. Many are reportedly very unhappy over the many delays in processing them and reuniting them with members of their family. There weren't any real surprises today in the latest Democratic primaries, but there was a rather surprising endorsement on the Republican side of the ledger. Former President Gerald Ford threw his support to Ronald Reagan today. President Ford beat Governor Reagan 4 years ago for the nomination. Since George Bush dropped out of the race yesterday, Reagan had really little trouble winning today's primaries in Kentucky, Idaho, and Nevada. Over on the Democratic side, President Carter will have to wait at least until next week if he's going to win the nomination. In Kentucky, the president beat Senator Kennedy by a 3-1 margin and won 38 of the state's 50 delegates. The president is also leading in Arkansas and Nevada. Senator Kennedy would have to sweep all 4 of the final primaries next Tuesday to deny the president a first ballot victory. For many years now, people who live in Anoka County have felt ignored, even opposed by the Anoka State Hospital there. Tonight, some of them might feel the state has begun to listen to them, and they see problems at Anoka State in a different light. Ken Speak reports.
It's too often we see Anoka State Hospital as a collection of buildings. That's because of the need to protect the patient's privacy. But it is a people place with big problems. That was brought out in a report to a hospital community liaison committee. The report discussed 67 problems at the institution, ranging from obsolete kinds of patient care to bad employee morale. It said Anoka has the worst problems of any Minnesota state hospital.
1 minute. State hospital located in a large metropolitan district
and partly, again, because it has a different kind of patient population, younger, more aggressive, more chemical dependency in addition to mental illness.
Hospital staffers were not surprised by the report. Instead, they said they were heartened that finally somebody outside the hospital and the Department of Public Welfare recognized the problems.
I think the department can view this as an opportunity rather than a difficult time to get through. I think we will see some major changes in the next few months and few years.
Despite the problems and despite the frustrations, there are a lot of good people around at all levels, and they all want to make a go of this program. And that's what I would like to think is the major thing to remember here.
So the people at the meeting say they finally have reason to think things will get better here at Anoka State Hospital. Ken Speak, News Center 11.
And still to come on the news tonight, an unusual boating accident on the Mississippi River has resulted in calls for more caution from boat operators. We'll have that story and more as News Center 11 continues. Stay with us.
It was one of those motels you like to check out, was every carpet you see gets the dust. Once you're going to be as tough as you see, you just drop by.
Drop by, on sings and motor on.
All we gotta do is turn the mother on.
Tom and I always agree on important things.
How can Shinglewood brand aluminum siding?
Because Shinglewood has the warmth of wood shingles in a wide choice of colors.
No, it's because you'll probably never have to paint your house again as long as you own it.
I thought we agreed on everything.
Well, how about this? For your nearest Alcan dealer, check the yellow pages under siding.
I agree.
No.
That's the goddamn coolness in the studio.
Alcan Building Products. We belong around your home.
Excuse me, would you give up your doctor to join an HMO?
Oh, you must be kidding.
I don't think so. With Physicians Health Plan, you probably won't have to.
You mean we can get all the benefits of a health maintenance organization like checkups and baby care?
And we can still see our same doctors in the same offices?
Good chance.
What if I want to change doctors?
No problem. PHP has over 1,500 to choose from.
You should go to Dr. Allen. He is nifty.
Physicians Health Plan, available through employer groups.
Minneapolis, keep an eye on us. This is First Bank Place, the expanded headquarters of First Bank Minneapolis. Over here, where you've always found us, will be one of the most modern personal banking centers in the nation. And right here will be the largest skyway in Minneapolis, connecting our buildings with the rest of Pillsbury Center, which we're also building. And down there is our newest building in First Bank Atrium. First Bank, a place to work, bank, and enjoy yourself. I can't wait.
4 Twin Cities residents are lucky to be alive tonight. The 4, riding in a speedboat last night down the Mississippi River, survived a 30-foot plunge down to the bottom of Lock and Dam number 1 in St. Paul. Joe Casella now has an update report on exactly what happened.
It's hard to believe anyone could have survived the 30-foot fall. Pieces of the yellow speedboat were scattered about the foot of the spillway. 2 women, Leanne Koski and Joni Christensen, both of Minneapolis, were treated for the...
Plus one of them out. Advance tickets and let's take it quicker.
And back.